Hello and welcome back to the Vinyl Brotherhood, where we like to kick back, take it easy, and just chat about music, whether it be the latest and greatest new releases or old favorites from years gone by. It's been 10 years since Cloud Nothing's released Attack on Memory, their magnum opus, in my humble opinion, and we wanted to take a moment and reminisce and think about that album a little bit, discuss it a little bit. We're going to review it, and it's going to be a great time, so get comfortable, and we will start here momentarily. It's technically been over 10 years now since Cloud Nothing's released this very much buzzed about album titled Attack on Memory. I was hoping to get around to this sooner. I wanted to commemorate the album at 10 years, but as time did not allow, I decided that the second best time to do this was 10 years after I personally gave it a listen. I was a year late to the game, but when I did give it a spin, Attack on Memory was the right album at the right time, and I was obsessed. I was in the middle of a cold, quiet, and lonely January, what they call J-term at school, when I stumbled across Cloud Nothing's hit record, and I just hit the play button, let the sounds wash over me and do its thing. And it was love at first listen. And so we find ourselves here now, a decade plus after release, and I'd like to see how well it holds up. I'm definitely optimistic, but as new albums release every day, we want to be sure that we do not forget our classics. So let's take our vinyl record here and head over to the turntable. Okay, let's get started. Here's the artwork for Attack on Memory. I've been looking at this thing for over a decade, and I'm still not exactly sure what that is in the background, but it's a nice cover nonetheless. Grayscale, a little minimalist, and even more minimal on the back. No track listing, but it captures the feel of the record pretty well. And I've got the download code here, and I was just thinking that I wish my credit card looked like that. But that is not the case. Anyway, let's get moving right along. Cloud Nothings is the music project of a gentleman named Dylan Baldy of Cleveland, Ohio. He's been at it for a while, and it's important to note that Attack on Memory is a pretty huge departure from what he had done in the past. This is the third Cloud Nothings record. The first two consist of very lo-fi, minimally produced bedroom pop, all written and performed by Baldy himself. The guy's got a knack for melodic hooks and has no issue capturing the youthful punk rock energy when necessary. But on this third outing, it's like we're listening to a totally different group, partly because that's exactly the case. Baldy is working with a full-time band this time around, introducing some core elements that have become mainstays of the Cloud Nothings formula, such as a frenzied snare drum fills. But he's also forsaken the feel-good poppy guitar rock of his first records to bring us something a tad heavier, a little less bright and saturated. It reminds me a little bit of Wire's Pink Flag or Spiderland by Slint, if you're familiar with that one. The project as a whole has a slightly bleak undercurrent in theme and in feel, even in some of its more mild moments, regardless of whether he's leaning more into the punkier side or more towards the noise rock and everything in between. Sound-wise, the guitars are both cleaner and heavier than we've previously gotten from Cloud Nothings. And that could very much be the result of working alongside producer Steve Albini, a man associated with countless indie and alternative legends. The mix throughout the project feels extra lifelike and spacious, and notably lacking in polish. It almost has like the feeling of a live performance. On a technical level, they color outside the lines quite a bit, preserving the authenticity and maintaining the tumultuous spirit of the record. Truthfully, I find Attack on Memory to be sort of a cathartic album. We're presented with a very sincere portrayal of everyday anxieties, frustrations, the more sobering realities that life often presents. Dylan Baldy doesn't beat around the bush with his lyrics, and his guttural scream is nearly tangible in his vocal delivery. is no less dedicated on the death march that is the opening track, No Future, No Past. Imagine being a Cloud Nothings fan in 2012 and going into this album completely blind. I would have double checked to make sure this was still them. The track builds and builds at a zombie-like pace with the snare drum barely hitting on time, and the ominous piano and low-octave chanting nestled below Dylan's lead I find especially intriguing as they draw us in deeper towards the epic conclusion. It's followed by the 9-minute centerpiece epic Wasted Days, in which our vocalist laments a mediocre existence, endlessly repeating the phrase, "I thought I would be more than this." I will say, as someone now in their 30s, I would tell young early 2010s Dylan not to give up hope and to brace himself. Nonetheless, the song is brilliant. It starts guns a-blazing, but a few minutes in, everything but the bass guitar falls out, and we get to listen to that drony bass guitar drone on for an almost uncomfortable amount of time. I know I'm spoiling it all, but it's really exhilarating to listen to various elements work their way in, adding tension. And the song progresses, adding layers of noise until it all falls apart and we're left with this wild cacophony. But then it all just snaps back together with the unified band right on time for the tag at the end. Another weightier number on Attack on Memory that you won't want to miss is called No Sentiment. The band press on with an increased urgency and a very passionate performance. Plenty of noise, it's very vivid, but not without exploring the song's many dynamic possibilities. Another great highlight. We've got some heavier songs, but on the flip side, to balance things out, there are also several songs that recall some of the older Cloud Nothings material, but now with that extra tint of disenchantment. Stay Useless has this nice guitar work during the verses that I thought to be kind of reminiscent of old school skate punk, which I'm a sucker for. And that may be an unfounded statement, but either way, it's got that same energy. It might be the catchiest song on the record. It's the most melodic for sure, but the album's closer, Cut You, may be a contender. It has the same adrenaline behind it. This song is really interesting in how the relatively lighter composition is countered by a lyric reflecting Dylan at his most jealous and contentious. Irony notwithstanding, the melody of the chorus communicates a yearning of sorts. It's not the most grandiose album closer, but it is beautiful. And beautiful is a word I could use to sum up this whole album. Well, I don't know, speaking of irony, it may not be the first word I use. It'd come after raucous, intense, angsty, and fun, but I really do mean that. Not every song in its brief 8-song track listing is as consequential or creative as Wasted Days, but I don't feel that drags the album down or hurts its efficacy. It's a very well-paced record, and despite the different flavors presented, it's very cohesive. And I can't emphasize enough how well Attack on Memory works as a singular artistic expression. As I previously mentioned, the committed performances and the passion can be found on every minute of the record, and that kind of thing goes a very long way. The album is called Attack on Memory, but it's been lingering in mine for a decade now, and for very good reason. I definitely recommend. If you haven't listened to it yet, please do so. And if you like Cloud Nothings, then I'm sure this also holds a very special place in your heart. So that's about all I got. Let's head back to the living area and go over some final thoughts. It had been a while since I had given Attack on Memory a good thorough listen, and I must say I was surprised at how fresh and hard-hitting that experience was. Maybe I shouldn't have been all that surprised 10 years after the fact, and the slow buildup of No Future, No Past is just as enthralling on the millionth go-around, and the other 7 tracks haven't lost their luster either. Cloud Nothings have put out some great work since then. They've certainly got a serious gem or two out there, but I would argue that they haven't captured that same magic that we find here on Attack on Memory. Like I said, it's not flawless. A couple tracks suggest the potential of perfection rather than the actual thing, but my goodness, does this album feel important. I'm ready to give it an 8.5 out of 10 today on the Vinyl Brotherhood, and that's our review. So let us know what you think about this album in the comments down below. Do you agree, disagree? I'm very curious. Also, remember to like or subscribe. I need to remind you, but chances are if you are the respectable, upstanding citizen of high pedigree that watches this channel, You know how YouTube works. Jokes aside, you've all been the best, and I couldn't be more grateful for your time and support. We'll be back soon with another review, so stay tuned, and we'll see you again next time right here on the Vinyl Brotherhood.